This is the Daily Saints Pod with Zach and Greg.
Hello and welcome back to the Daily Saints Pod. My name is Greg, here for episode number 472. As always, joined by my good friend and wonderful co-host, Zach. How are you doing, mate? You alright?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Getting closer and closer to an actual game, which is bizarre. Even if we're not fully mentally there yet, it doesn't really matter.
Got our first match preview of the season tomorrow, mate.
But yeah, that's like a mad thing about it, right? It feels like it barely ended. Spygate, World Cup, Cole Aaron is now back with the squad I saw today. So yeah, it's good stuff all around. So yeah, not too bad.
Yeah.
Yourself?
And look, yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. And look, I love these episodes. One of my favourite episodes of the week at this time of year is Transfer Thursday.
Yeah, it'd be nicer if there was like more stuff to talk about for Transfer Thursday.
Yeah.
But
hey, look, let's get ahead of it and peel the curtain back a bit, because with some of the news that we've got, maybe by the time this goes out, there will have been more news than we have got. But we are recording this on Tuesday evening, and so as of now, because scheduling's a real life thing, and I've got to go and see Gladiators, so you can only get the recordings in when you can.
For gallivanting about, put it that way, during the week of all times.
I know. So, look, maybe this isn't going to be the most up-to-date, but do you know what? There is more this week than there was last week, I will say.
Yeah.
At least a little bit. I mean, not all of it is, directly Saints-related, I guess, is the downside, but look, there's stuff. So, look, how do you want to do this? You want to do ins first or outs first?
Let's do outs first to leave us something excited towards the end, maybe.
Okay, I like that. Okay, so on the outs list, Leeds Live is still reporting that the move for Shea Charles is still on, despite the last reports out being that they had this is the final offer, take it or leave it, and we went, well, you're not meeting our price, so leave it.
Yeah, it kind of felt like that, right? And then what we ended up with was them still talking about it. And maybe there is stuff going on behind the scenes. I think that, to be fair, though, from what I can tell from this article, they have kind of just looked at the conversation that Tom has had around it. And where we're like, oh, it kind of seems like he's happy either way. They've read it as, oh, he's attracting interest. They're aware he's attracting interest. And also they know there's not a huge amount that they can keep him. So it's still as ambiguous as it was beforehand. Again, by the time this goes out, might be someone, might be someone else. But at the same time, where I'm at, in the nicest possible way, as you've pointed out, is that pay the money and then you'll get him. If not, you won't. Maybe they've agreed to pay the money. Who knows? But
who knows? Well, look, as with these things, they do tend to drag on. They do tend to take their time. Always lots of moving parts. Maybe to free up the funds for the extra bit to make it up, Leeds have to wait for the money to come in from another player. You don't know. You can never tell what's going on with these things, but I'm sure that it will continue to crop up in our news stories as the window goes on. Okay, so next up on my outgoing list, Casper Yander. Update 22 hours ago at the time of recording. It's possible that Casper Yander will change clubs during the current transfer window because the midfielder's future is open. He's received inquiries from several unnamed clubs, including from the Bundesliga, according to Sky. So, nice and vague.
Yeah,
no real specifics. Yeah, it goes on to say that several weeks ago he was linked with Stuttgart, where the 23-year-old was considered as a successor to Angelo Stiller, but currently there's nothing concrete suggesting a departure. Consequently, no further developments regarding that particular link. So, I guess another one where we'll wait and see. I think, coming into this window, he was probably one of the ones we were more expecting to lose for, a couple of reasons, not least the personal reasons, right?
Yeah, so I'm not hugely surprised by it, but also I have seen that Tondo came out and said he's like quite settled and he's a big part of the team. And the other thing that I will point out is that early on in the season, for anyone that forgot, there was a conversation with our owner, and he made the astute observation that so many people seem to be forgetting that we do have quite large contracts, right? And
Mm,
like a lot of these players are on quite big contracts quite early on, so it's not like we're going to be letting them go for anything. And I think that just because Yanda isn't, wants to kind of go back to Germany, maybe from what we've heard, we don't know, we don't really know too much about it, and I know that we've said that that's been what's been reported. At the same time, it's like you can't just quit this job because you've signed specifically a contract, and if you do, you're going to have to find someone that pays for that. And I wonder if some of these sort of like German outlets are coming in, and yeah, they might have offers on the table. I feel like they're probably far off our valuation, but
mm.
I don't know.
Yeah. Look, it's gonna the tagline from the club is that the deal's got to be right for everyone, right? And that includes the club who are going to want to make money or make good on the money they spent. And we know how good Casper can be and how important he was in the last games of those seasons. And our price tag is likely to reflect that, whereas incoming bids may not. But at the end of the day, he's worth whatever we are willing to accept for him and not less, right? That's how it works. That's how the fixed term nature of player contracts play out. So it'd be good to see him stay.
Exactly that.
It feels more likely at this point to me that he's going to stay than it was at the start of the window. So
Yeah,
taking it as a good sign.
but then also we think of we have this problem where everything starts to seem like it's being held together, and then the run in towards the end of the window comes, and then there's mass exodus. And I'm just hoping
Mm,
that that doesn't happen this time around. Like again, a lot of players, especially from some of the media, the usual suspects you'd expect from sort of Stevens and Manning and stuff, and Flynn Downs. A lot of those conversations that are taking place are very much sort of rallying calls for the next season. So a lot of those players seem to be definitely on for staying, and but there's quite a few notable absentees as to people that I'd expect to be a vocal voice, who we haven't really heard any rumours about. But I would point out Taylor Harbour Bellis being one of them, considering we touted him as a future captain. The three people that have come out in the media of note are Downs, Manning, and Stevens. Now, again, maybe it's nothing to read into. Sometimes that's just the case. It might just be the people that are most willing to talk to the media and do the rounds. I am still I am still worried we're going to get sort of this drive and push towards transfers towards the end of the window, especially where you'd expect some of the movement around teams like West Ham to have kind of ramped up by now. So unless they're saving for something else, however, there has also been like a lot of teasing around incoming. So who knows? Maybe I'm just entirely wrong. Maybe it's
yeah,
just me.
mate, it
Maybe it's
just
just a
speaks to your
pessimism, mate. Like that's all that
yeah,
is.
that's it. It speaks to your pessimistic nature. I think I'm feeling more confident. And look, we probably will lose some players. Let's not get it twisted. But look, I think it's going to be all right. Right, next up on my outbound list, probably a player we're going to talk about every week until it's either done or he is not here. Bemba Diaz is
Right?
still thought as likely to make a summer move, with Derby and Sheffield United both credited with interest. Derby are considering a move for the Chilean forward, with John Eustace saying that he played well at the end of last season, performing very well. They need to bring in as many good players as they can to help them get into the top eight. So, indicating he would welcome the return of Bemba and Diaz. We bought Diaz for 7 million approximately from Villarreal. So, what that price tag will be. I feel like with the way the transfers are split, anything around that or even sort of 4 to 5 million would probably get the deal across the line. However, Tonda praised the forward's attitude during pre-season and insists he remains a Southampton player, although not ruling out a departure.
That says a lot to me, right? That last bit, like you're not ruling out a departure. You're like, yeah, okay. And like, yeah, there's been a surprisingly large amount of articles writing about his inclusion in preseason and him playing in preseason. And I want to say there's at least 3 Echo articles about it, which I find wild considering it's like, you know, a player that might and is most likely on his way out. And yeah, okay, great. He is not throwing his toys out the pram during preseason. That's because he's going to need it. But I still kind of expect him to go. To be perfectly honest, I feel like I don't really know if he would play a role. I think there's some other players that we'd expect to go that maybe are staying now. But in regards to him specifically, yeah, until it's done. But it is interesting that there's now this whole Sheffield United derby battle for him. So
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see if one
you
of
kind
them.
of feel like one of them will meet the
Yeah,
valuation, right? It's not going to be crazy money that we're asking for him, to be honest. So
I think it will probably be less than what we paid as well. If I'm totally honest, if anything, I imagine that if he does go, we won't hear about the figure and it'll be undisclosed because they won't want to talk about how much of a loss they're probably willing to make on him.
that's fair. Well, I mean, the way they split the transfer fees and split it across years with it, he's been here what 2 seasons now.
Technically,
One
yeah.
where he was actually here and one where he was on loan. So 7 million split across 2 years. Yeah, 3 to 4 million is probably technically making money or not losing money, I guess, based on
Look,
that.
we can talk about the technicalities. Ultimately, we're probably going to end up taking a loss on it, and I think that everyone's going to be kind of like all right with that because of the fact that it's at the moment it's just wages in it. It's not, I doubt. I would be surprised to see him make a competitive appearance unless he plays on Saturday for whatever reason. Other than that, I wholly think that it won't really matter whether we take a loss or not at that point.
Yeah,
We spent more on
absolutely,
less for that way.
for sure. Next up on the list, Cameron Archer. We've of course heard linked with a move to West Brom. Reports from a West Brom fan page called Aya Wigu. I don't know. Uh, apologies in advance
Is
for
there,
butchering that.
is there some sort of like Brummy slang we are just completely unaware of and have
It's
failed to
got to be.
mispronounce? What's going on
Absolutely.
there?
Look, with all of my links to the Black Country, I'm afraid I just don't speak the lingo. But their source suggests that the initial bid West Brom made for Archer was in the range of 3 million, looking to potentially rise to 5 million, with the subsequent update being that the difference between that and what we are willing to accept for our valuation is quite great, which means that they would probably have to pay more than 5 million up front to sign Cameron Archer. More recently, it's been suggested that Archer is potentially ready to remain at Southampton and compete for his place, despite speculation linking him with the move to the West Brom. So,
Yeah, I'll throw
one
that
that
as
might end
a
up staying.
with a grain of salt because the website that we used where we found that rumor seems to just sort of say it collates rumors without really throwing where the source was. So I don't know if there's like a proper
Yeah.
source for that. Because if not, I could tweet out right now that I think Cameron Archer's going to stay, and that could be considered a basis for a new story.
Yeah. Well,
I
he's got
still,
a contract, so if he doesn't move, he will stay here for the summer.
yeah,
Like
but
that is
arguably at that point
rooted in
would we be
fact.
wrong? So
Yeah.
yeah. So take this kind of stuff with a pinch of salt, even with some of the official reporting, right? Because like it's like that
Hmm.
Derby Live one is all that's really doing is putting a Derby County spin on what Tonda has said previously. I think
Yeah,
I've got my
absolutely.
Derby County confused there with my Leeds live, but there we are. The
Yeah.
Derby one was them literally talking about what John Eustace says. But yeah,
Hmm.
just so you know, like we're gonna
Yeah,
share all the information, but if some of it's just bogus, I'm gonna point that out.
absolutely. And look, in the same ilk and by the same guys, no real source for this one, but it said that when pre-season began this summer, it was expected that Damien Downs would be sold or go out on loan. However, it now appears likely that he will stay to provide Eckert with another option alongside Carl Larin, not least because of the knock he took. So, I guess this one to keep an eye on. or not, I guess.
Logical had a good game when he did appear in preseason.
Yeah.
The knocks less than ideal because it would have probably hampered
Mm.
his preparation for. I'm not really too upset. I just hope that when he has those competitive chances, he grabs them with both hands, and yeah, we'll see from there. But I think that what we don't want is what we've had previously, which is an abundance of strikers in those roles, but only one of them ever actually playing. And that's what
Yeah.
we might end up with, which is why I wouldn't be surprised if we see probably Archer go, regardless of those supposed comments made.
I just don't know if Tonda thinks of Archer as a striker anymore. I
Yeah,
think
you still think that he thinks of him as a number 10 instead. So you think
yeah,
that he would prefer to have him as a backup to what Dobbin and Azaz?
yeah,
Okay,
potentially. Because Archer
interesting.
also, he also could potentially be used as a slightly more narrow wide player. So like an inside forward role if we were trying to change it up a bit. So
Yeah,
I could see a way that we would utilize him without bundling him in as that sort of striker role. But I guess we'll see, and time will tell. It goes both ways, right? Like he's only actually worth what we're willing to let him go for, but by the same regard, someone has to be willing to pay that for him to be worth it. So I guess we'll see how it plays out.
true that.
Right, and that's it. That's my list of outs. Got some miscellaneous ones that are kind of outs, but
Mhm.
well, I think I'll leave those to the end. I think we'll touch on them later because they're more free agents who were Southampton moving on.
Yeah,
So
ex Southampton players that have now potentially or have fan clubs.
yeah, well, look, they were all from last season at least when they were
Mm.
released. So we'll get to that. But let's move on to the more exciting part, mate. Ins. So I'm going to start with the one that we have a name for. Apparently, Southampton have joined the race with Middlesbrough and Leicester City linked Crystal Palace midfielder Justin Devaney. It's ramping up with their interest in him. With I don't know, the news source I'm looking at suggesting Middlesbrough might be favourites, but no real source of context of why that might be the case.
It is fascinating to see that. Like, are we just going to start being linked with everybody that Middlesbrough is also linked with to try and like? I'm not saying that the media would ever blow things out of proportion to try and create scandal and skepticism across the
Mm.
board, but like, obviously, there were reports after we signed Dobbin that apparently Middlesbrough have been after him since January, and the entirety of this window, and we signed him before then, which feels a little sort of almost trolling, especially considering he's scored in every
I
single preseason.
don't think it's as insidious as that. I
No,
just
but
think that
my point is
I
if we
think
start being
that
linked to lots of players that also are Middlesbrough, is it because people are trying to,
no,
it
I
might be
think
that we have
that
scouted the same players.
yeah, budget players that will do well in a championship role who are likely to go for a not massive fee is a profile of player that suits both us and Middlesbrough and the way we set up. So it doesn't surprise me in the slightest that we are both linked with similar sets of players lots of the time because that's the bucket they fall into. So it's a logical step, right? It's like, oh, this is gonna be a potentially like cheap signing that has the potential to really come good and do some good stuff. And that logic applies to both us and Middlesbrough with the way that our backroom sets up. So I think that's why we are linked with so many of the same players. It's probably an added bonus to the papers that obviously there's the existing needle between the two teams. But
Yeah, that's fair. It's just I can't help but be a skeptic on that kind of stuff, and like you do wonder how many times it might just say both of us on a
yeah,
player that in fact was never going to go to
yeah, so it
it,
says Southampton and Leicester are monitoring while Preston North End remain keen. However, Middlesbrough are prepared to push the boat out for this deal and could go as high as £7 million to secure the deal. So
interesting.
that's what I mean, right? Like you're talking about price range that the player's been put into, and
Yep.
that is where the profile matches together. But
Okay, that's
it's
fair.
one to keep an eye on. We'll see a a stringent link by any stretch, but a link nevertheless. Right, next up, I don't have a name for this one. The only information I've got is the most Southampton thing, Zach. It's Tonda says that one is close, and hopefully we'll get an announcement soon. And I've not seen any speculation or like rumors that anything in particular is as close as that from any of the expected sources. So is this going to be another one of these Southampton things where nobody sees it coming and then boom, there's an announcement for someone?
Yeah, from what I can tell, though, that's by design, right? Is to avoid any media speculation or anybody digging into it. You don't want this to be like a Fabrizio Romano puts it out on Twitter before there's something decided. Anything can be hijacked. It also seems to be from various different sources I've seen of like almost quite hyped up. Like it's going to be quite a big transfer that we kind of didn't expect to happen. We were like, oh, this is a surprise to really try and level us up for this season. So I'm kind of a bit all over the place as to what it could be. But, swings and roundabouts. If we've got, they've clearly got someone coming in potentially, maybe a new, a good fresh new transfer. Probably I'm thinking maybe for something to be so hyped up like this, surely it's got to be striker. And I think that if Damien Downs is just back up to Larin, we're still missing that piece of the puzzle, right? I think that we've seen that Dobbin is going to be able to provide adequate cover for Azaz, depending on where people are played, and as you've pointed out, Archer's potentially there too. So I don't know if it's necessarily going to be the midfielder, but the striker position definitely. Who could be absolutely explosive and like it could like blow the roof off? I don't know, because at this point we've talked about this before, right? Like a 20, 30 goal a year striker is like this unicorn that you struggle to get. Like, unless they suddenly turn around and go, well, Adam Armstrong's coming back, or something ridiculous like that.
It's all part of the FA's big conspiracy, mate. The reason we've not heard anything about Tonda's ban is because they've been gearing up to relegate Man City all the way down to the National League, and we're actually going to sign Erling Haaland.
Weird. Oh no! Like there's enough poor eyes on that man at the moment, right? Like I understand that he is chronically online, and people talk about him being chronically online. But good lord, like everything is now just like it's amazing how Instagram can blank, and Erling Haaland will say cool, and then that just. But then the thing is, he doesn't help himself by doing it. Like it's going to be exhausting eventually.
Self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it?
Yeah, but like I genuinely don't think, Greg, from the bottom of my heart, unfortunately the pessimist I am, I doubt we're signing Erling Haaland. But I'll maybe we will. I mean, look, you call me the pessimist, you're the one that said we'd finish second and not first, so what do I know?
Well, yeah, fair enough. Fair shout. And that concludes my very short ins list.
Unknown transfer and guy we've been linked with. Perfect.
Yeah, that's it. Which I guess just leaves us these, former Saints. I guess maybe there's some. I've seen some discussion about like us signing Ross Stewart or trying to re-sign Ross Stewart. But
I think it was more somebody asked.
If he wanted to stay, he wouldn't have left.
Yeah, like somebody asked the question, I think, to Tonda, and he said, like, I don't know, there's a possibility, because, there could be a possibility that he turns around and says, I will happily take the deal. And then we say, okay, it's going to be less because of the fact that you've decided to try and go. But, yeah, just I'm kind of in the same boat as if someone wants to leave and then come back. And I think I'm seeing a lot more active hostility over the last couple of days towards him now. Because of the sort of people have started to do the maths and figure out how much money he was in physio, and then you've also got Sunderland fans piling on and being like, "Can't believe you paid £12 million for a bloke that snapped his Achilles," and lots of things like that. And it's kind of it's considered to be disappointing, and I kind of get that, right? And I think maybe he thinks he's worth more. And Swansea probably, as we've talked, are building a project. They have got a lot more investment. Maybe they have slightly more spending power. The same kind of sort of yoke that if I worked at a job and the money that I was offered was less than the year before, and I knew I could probably do a job and go elsewhere, I might do that. So I don't think it's as deep as people are making out, but I do understand that people get annoyed at like the lack of loyalty so much and so forth.
in my opinion, if he wanted to stay and show loyalty, he would have stayed
Yeah,
and decided not to. And it's going to potentially be a moot point very soon, as multiple sources are reporting that Swansea are close to finalising the deal.
yeah,
Though it is worth mentioning that Dan from the Daily Echo, is it Dan Hargreaves? I've forgotten
yep.
his name.
New guy. He's really cool.
The new George.
He's done who, by the way, has been like absolutely knocking out of the park with some of the social stuff. Like I felt like I was in Germany with him. Put it that way.
Yeah, it was real good. Continuing the high quality of journalists that seem to cover Southampton, thankfully. But he's reporting that he personally hasn't seen or heard anything concrete about Ross Stewart to Swansea, as in Swansea have other targets lined up. So
yeah, I wouldn't really be surprised, because for anyone it's a risk, and you might end up, I think it's a risk for all parties involved. There's a couple of other free agents that left and didn't re-sign. I think Joe Aribo's still without a club. There's quite a few people that have gone. I think that was just the one that was the most surprising, and I think disappointed the most people. But yeah, I think putting it to bed, if you wanted to re-sign or stay, he would have just stayed. I don't think we will go, cap in hand and say, "Oh, please, can we have you back?" I think that they would have already.
And also, if you are
targets.
the type of person to stand on your principle and take offence to, what happened last season, and kick off a legal challenge about the contract extension, you probably aren't the type of person who is going to come crawling back with your tail between your legs if it doesn't pan out.
I think that there's quite a lot of people that missed that part of him potentially renewing, right, and then triggering the extension, is that he did that, and I think that you burn a bridge there, and it might be that Tonda is willing, but I think that he's probably saying that because he doesn't want to cause friction.
Yeah, but I never say never. You just don't say negatives, right? Like, maybe. There's nothing more to read.
Yeah, maybe. Yep, no, I'm definitely staying this season. Like, goes and signs for elsewhere, like immediately.
Exactly.
It's
train of thought.
It's how the game's played, isn't it?
Yeah. And then two more free agents whose contract was up with us at the end of last season. Charlie Taylor has signed a 1-year contract with Derby. John Eustace, of course, saying that he wanted good players, but instead signing Charlie Taylor. I don't know.
Good for him, I guess. Like, did the rounds, did not. I'm not really surprised he wasn't welcomed back with West Brom with open arms, right? Like, we covered. If anyone's interested, we covered a lot of people that are listening are long term. But if you've only joined us recently, we did cover at the end of the season, as a break from Spygate conversations, some of the returning loanees and how their loans went. And when I say that his was a mixed bag, it was a mixed bag, and there was no way.
I think it was less mixed and slightly more disastrous, to be honest. But
well, it depends if you're a Baggies fan, right? Like, some people really thought he did well, some people didn't.
Yeah. And obviously
not for it, put it that way.
Didn't exactly set the world on fire playing for us previously either. Right, was potentially the player who was out of position from the Leicester corner, who then was never seen again.
He's had it rough since leaving Burnley, put it that way. I think.
But a very experienced, especially in the Championship, player who brings that experience to the dressing room for Derby, and maybe that's exactly what they're looking for.
Ben Brereton Diaz did all right for Derby. We thought he would go there and be terrible. Our former boss said that he looked a bit. He was very surprised and wondered if he could play football. And then as the season went on, he grew into that role. And maybe Charlie Taylor, will do the same, playing for John.
Yeah.
So
I hold no ill will to Charlie Taylor.
I hold no ill will because I barely remember the games he's played in, and that's just the truth.
Just another one of those players. And last but definitely not least, a free agent after his short-term contract with us, of course, expired in the summer. Club legend Oriol Romeu has found his way to the new club in Japan of, here we go, guys, apologies in advance, Avispa Fukuoka.
Now, see, the thing is we've talked about this before. I re-included it in the list because I just wanted to see if you pronounce it how you'd pronounce it again.
Yeah.
So if it feels like repeated news, it is.
I think
Maybe
the
the
last
pronunciation's
time,
changed.
I think the last time we talked about it was rumored, and it is in fact official now, right? So
Yeah, it's cool. As somebody that watches a lot of the J League, I always find it fun when people are going there rather than leaving. And obviously, famously, you've had people like Gary Lineker go there and Iniesta and stuff like that. So yeah, for me, it's nice to see it get a bit of international recognition.
yeah,
So
nice.
yeah, happy days.
Yeah, good stuff. So that's it. That's the end of the transfers list. Like I say, slightly busier week than last week transfer wise. Not a lot on the in front at the moment, but again, to be expected. This is not a surprise,
True.
right?
It's some of the outs.
We were actively told before the season started that we needed to sell players before we bought players because we've got a squad and we haven't had any players leave. So
Yeah, there's some of the outs. There's outs that are expected, and there are outs that we haven't heard anything about. That I'm surprised by, and that's people like sort of Sugawara. We were kind of expecting to go out straight away. Have we completely forgotten that we consider Rambo to be a bag of money, like a pile of
yeah,
money with gloves, which is what Alfie House called him, and yet he did that like influencer thing where he tried to pretend he cared about a preseason game. I just think it's going to be really difficult if he stays for him to get. Just imagine him playing second fiddle to Daniel Price in the championship is probably where he expected his career to go. We've heard nothing.
it's definitely not where his pay packet. We're not going to want that either. So
No.
um, there'll be movement before the end of the window. We're just
So
not hearing any of it
do
yet.
we reckon? Here we go. So I don't want to encourage any level of gambling. Everyone can make up their own mind about that kind of stuff. But Greg, what's the chances you reckon he moves to Turkey before the window ends? I reckon Turkey or maybe the Dutch league. That's a really like left ball like goes to Ajax or somewhere like that.
yeah, I could see that. I mean, look, I'm sure there are plenty of sides that are going to be in the mix for him eventually.
If Jordan Henderson can go to Chelsea, Ramsdale can go anywhere.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at. Like,
Yeah, look, I'm even seeing reports, in the last few, not recently, not this week, that like Italian sides like Torino might be interested. So yeah, Europe somewhere probably. I would have
yeah,
thought, but yeah, he's
interesting,
going
isn't
to
it?
want to. He's still a good goalkeeper. Like
Yeah,
he's
for
doing pretty
sure. Like,
well,
it's not that
even
we
at
don't.
like a European level. It's just that his wage bill is not suitable for our needs, especially in a championship season, right? So
Yeah,
might
I
have
think
been a
that's
different
that's
story
part
had
of
we
it,
gone up,
and
but
on top of that, it's you know we've signed a goalkeeper to be our first choice goalkeeper. By the looks of things, we've had to put a lot of effort into that. To then play Rambo over him, I think would be a bit of an insane move. And especially with, as we pointed out, his wages and stuff, it just seems like I'm just very surprised we haven't seen movement on that because I
yeah,
think that as we've shown, it's important to get goalkeepers in early if you're going to change that position. And we're rapidly running down to the wire. So unless he gets brought in as like a backup, similar to how he was at Newcastle, somewhere else, that would be interesting. You could end up seeing him potentially at one of the promoted squads, ironically. But again, all this is just speculation. This is just me and you snowballing at the end of an episode that you've clearly tried to wind down and finish, and I've extended for no reason other than the fun of it. So
great.
I'll let you do your thing now, mate.
That's how the podcast rolls. It's all good. But yeah, look, that's it. That's all of the list. I'm sure that there'll be more as the weeks go on. Look, we're less than a month left now, so things are going to start happening, and they're going to start happening quickly. Like we're very rapidly going to be at a point where we probably need 2 transfer shows a week. To be honest, that
That'd
does
be
happen
nice.
as we get towards the end of the window, and then it's great because it'll just be match preview, match review, transfer, match preview, match review, transfer, just all the good stuff. It's all going to start coming thick and fast before you know it. But look, let us know in the comments, in the socials, who you think we are likely to sign. Who is this mystery player that there's been no news about? Where do you think Aaron Ramsdale will go? Do you think there are any other signings that we should be getting towards the door. I don't know. Let us know. Let us know your thoughts. We are Daily Saints Pod, absolutely everywhere. X, Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, everywhere. Hit us up and let us know. And we love to hear from you. It's really motivates us to do this and gives us lots of talking points. Zach, can you believe tomorrow we are back for our first match preview of the real season?
No, I think that's kind of wild, to be honest. I'm really surprised as to how
Do you
quick
even
that's gone around.
remember how match previews actually go or what those episodes are like?
No,
It's going to be like
not
relearning an
really.
entirely new skill set.
Conversation, we usually talk about lineups, predicted lineups. That's going to be pretty much impossible because at this point it could be
It's going to be
anybody.
great. I'm
Um,
so excited.
I look forward to talking about every single member of the squad and maybe them being in the squad or not.
Maybe by the time we record it, we might even know what colour kit we're going to be playing in, because I've yet to see any information on that.
I'm
I've
so
yet to
mad
work
about
it
it. It's so funny. Anyway, we'll leave that for tomorrow.
That's it. But look, that's what we'll be back with tomorrow. Until then, everyone have a wonderful day, and we will see you then.
This is the Daily Saints Pod with Zach and Greg.